Hello everyone and welcome to Feedvisor's Ask the Amazon Experts webinar in partnership with Skubana. I'm Gaby Young from Feedvisor and today I'm joined by two Amazon experts, Chad Rubin, who's a top 250 Amazon seller, and he's also the CEO of Skubana. You can see him giving us a wave there. And Aaron Ellis, who is a technical account manager at Feedvisor. So over 1,000 of you have registered and we're really happy to have you all here. In this session, Chad and Aaron are going to share their knowledge and expertise and guide you on how to really maximize your profit and still have lots and lots of time to spend with your friends and family by automating your Amazon business. This is obviously especially valuable in Q4 with the holidays coming up and when your workload is really kind of bigger than ever. And our experts have had several years of experience working with hundreds of sellers, helping them grow their e-commerce businesses successfully. And now they are here to help you with all that experience. We've received hundreds of questions, and most of them will be answered by Chad and Aaron within the next 45 minutes. But if you do have any further questions, you can just send them over to me via your GoToWebinar player, and I will do my very best to fit them in. And if you do want some more information about how Feedvisor, Skubana, or both companies can help you automate your Amazon business, you can see on your screen now a poll. So just click the relevant option on your screen and we'll be very happy to send you a little bit more information about either Feedvisor, Skubana, or both companies. At the end of the webinar, we'll be sharing an exclusive offer for an upcoming workshop in New York on November 2nd. So stay tuned at the end for more information. This session will be recorded, and so you'll receive it in your inbox later this week if you want to have another look and share with your friends. So without further ado, let's introduce our experts. Chad, let's start with you. It'll be great to hear a little bit of background about your businesses.
Awesome. I'm very psyched to be here. Thank you so much for having me and for including me on this webinar. My background is quite simple. I started off on Wall Street covering internet stocks. My parents had a retail brick and mortar store, a vacuum cleaner store. So not sure when any of you have been last to a vacuum store, to a retail store. And so I helped them bring their business on the internet, then started a private label branded business on Amazon, scaled that to high 7 figures, and then started a software called Skubana to help me automate and manage the entire process, everything after the checkout.
Cool. Now over to you, Aaron. Tell us a little bit about your experience with Amazon sellers.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, I'm a technical account manager here at Feedvisor. I work with several multi-million-dollar sellers, on Amazon, working on them getting ramped up, obviously, with their system, but obviously, as well as consultation on the Amazon storefront. So I'm happy and hoping to share some of that insight I've gained over the last few years working with these sellers.
Thanks very much, guys. So I'm going to leave it over to you to tell us all the amazing insights you have about how to automate your Amazon business.
Thank you very much, Gaby. So we all know that the e-commerce world, Amazon, it's a crazy world out there. There's so many daily tasks that we need to do when we handle an e-commerce or Amazon storefront. Now, obviously, some of the basic tasks we have to handle on a daily basis is working with our suppliers, obviously managing the relationships, inventory management, repricing issues, fulfillment on a daily basis, and of course customer service. But I think as you know, Chad, better than most, that's really not all that needs to be taken care of, right?
Yeah, look at my hair loss. There's so there's so much that needs to happen on a daily basis, and for us, for me, what we try to focus on at least is like we want to outsource what we perhaps maybe don't have the time to do, or perhaps things that we're not good at. So here's just a few other examples on the screen: strategizing, accounting. There's just so much to do, and there's so many bottlenecks of what you can get to. So today, in this session, we're going to talk about how to scale yourself and get done more than what you thought was humanly possible.
Absolutely, and I think a great way to maybe start it off, Chad, is give us a little background on how was the start for you. What was it like when you were really ramping up into this automation and optimized solution you have today?
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things that binds, I think, most people on this call is that we've all been through the struggle. We're all sellers. We all started from the ground up, and that's how I started. This is a photo of my warehouse in Harlem. It was a jungle, like so disorganized. There was no bin locations, Amazon FBA. There wasn't all this technology to make it all work. My father-in-law would come and help me pick and pack, and also FBA prep. We would put on the Beatles and just jam out and prep things in the warehouse. And so this is really how it all began. And I'm sure there's a lot of others on the call today that are probably still in that same place that I was in 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah, and really what we're looking to do is to go from where you started back then to something where you're at today. Exactly.
So, I mean, this is just where I'm at today, high 7-figure business. I think we're to actually surpass 7 million in revenue this year. I have 2 employees in the United States, and then I'm a top 500 Amazon seller, but I sell on 19 other channels on top of Amazon. So today we're going to really talk about the tools and my tactics of how we've automated my business and how you can too.
Yeah, great. I know a lot of people focus on Amazon, but explaining them how you manage 19 other channels really can give them an idea how they can optimize this one area.
Yeah, so since inception, year over year, we're increasing SKU count 87%. If you go to the next slide, you'll see just the ramp up in our new products that we've added. So as of right now, we have 950 private label products across 20 channels. More importantly than that, on the next slide, you'll see how many listings we have. So I do a ton of kitting and bundling. And so we create kits and bundles to explode our SKU count across all those channels as well to take up more real estate space.
That's right. More visibility, more opportunities to move slower moving products, buying them with, some of the big sellers, right?
Yeah, for sure. So all of this would have never been possible. And we're going to get to this now. It's like, how do you win, right? Do you work harder? Do you hustle harder? I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day. So are you going to work 25 hours in the day? So for me, I actually like to work smarter than harder. Like I run 2 multi-million-dollar businesses right now on top of writing a book called Cheaper, Easier, Direct. And so for me to win in e-commerce, you have to work smarter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, biggest mistake is just to work harder. I'm going to throw more resources at this job. I'm going to throw more people to forecast. I'm going to throw more people to reprice. And that's not the way to win in a 2017 environment where things are getting even more complex and more complicated. This year alone, Amazon's adding 500,000 new sellers to the platform.
That's right. And really, like you said, Chad, the focus should be how can I optimize myself? Where can I get the most dividends from my time?
Exactly. And so if you look at the next slide, I think this is really the crux of really what we're presenting today, is that anybody can knock off a private label seller. Anybody can go and contact a vendor. If you back up the truck one, right, back up the slide, anybody can contact your vendor and buy from right? But if you have a system in place, you cannot rip it off. It's much harder to replicate a system. It becomes a defensive position to be in.
That's an excellent point. So I think going back to what we're going to be covering today is a discussion on optimizing, moving to automating your processes and outsourcing. So using these 3 levers, as you put it, really will allow us to take control of our business and make that big leap we're looking to do.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why we're going in this order of optimize, automate, and outsource is that you can't really outsource an inefficient task. So you optimize your own life first, and then you move into automating it with technology, doing what human labor can't do. And then you outsource those higher value activities or things that you're not very good at, which we'll get into.
So let's dive a little bit into the optimization. What works for you, Chad?
So I think the first step when you're going through the optimization process is to go inward, right? The first thing that most people do is they go and they try to optimize other people's life instead of going inside to optimize their own life. So you need to go look at where you're spending your time today. And so I did this, and I suggest everybody on this webinar do this sort of thing, which is for the next 2 weeks, create a calendar and document where you spend your time. And when you do that and you write down exactly where you're spending the time, you're going to start understanding where are you spending your time, what are the things that you're good at, bad at, etc. But then you do the same thing with your employees. So where are they spending their time? And this is only done after you actually look inward at yourself, where you're spending your time.
Right. And I mean, this methodology really goes across the board because you do the same thing with your inventory. You want to invest your time where the money is, right? And where you're the most efficient at the end of the day.
Exactly. And one of the things that I do with my employees is after I analyze their time, most other companies give employees holistic water or organic meals for lunch, and that's great. We give our employees virtual assistants. So we'll get to that in the outsourcing section coming up.
Great. So explain this. What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? What are people doing wrong, in your opinion?
Yeah. So this is a personal share I want to share with everybody. So I actually thought about this when my wife brought me to IKEA to get some furniture. And we brought it home and she said, Chad, here's all this furniture, all this stuff you need to put together. And I'm like the least handy person in the world, I think. And I thought to myself, does this help me accomplish my goal, right? Does this A, help me make more money? No. But or B, does it actually help me spend more time with my wife, which is something that she wants me to do? So one of my mantras is to delegate and elevate. So I was able to find my next door neighbor, high school kid. I won't even share with you what I paid him to do this. And I literally freed up at least 8 hours and like so much hair loss that I would have lost. Just so one of the things I do, especially even when I'm hiring people right now, and this is a great hiring question, is you go to IKEA today, you buy this furniture, what do you do next? Do you assemble it yourself? Like the answer to that is so critical because it actually gives you the mindset of what this person is about.
Right. That's a great point. And also a key going back to what you said is you have to understand yourself. You have to understand what's important to you and what your goals are. And that will guide you on what the next step would be when you get, let's say, your IKEA, right?
Yep, exactly. And I asked this in interviews, but this is that slide right there with IKEA is just, I think, showing and very telling about where you spend your time and how you choose to spend your time. But also, like, my time is more valuable.
Right. Absolutely. It's something that we need to all remember, that our time is more valuable, those mundane, low-return tasks.
Exactly.
So as you said, not all work is created equal. Maybe we'll break that down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's important to just prioritize it. So if you look at these quadrants here, if we start on the bottom right, anything that requires high effort and low impact is a complete and utter waste of time. This is like a quadrant that you should absolutely stay away from. And by the way, this is the framework that I use to prioritize my life and my time and where I'm spending it. And so you really want to be in control of your schedule. So if you look at the next slide, or not next slide, excuse me, the next quadrant, low effort, low impact. This is housekeeping. This is my employees say they want more cold brew for the office, or they want more organic soda. Okay, great. I shouldn't be going out and actually going to buy those items. That's something that someone else should be doing because it's just not going to make the biggest impact for me or my business or for my life. If you go to the next one, this is, I call it snacking. This is noshing. This is a low effort, high impact for the business. This kind of makes you feel good in the short term. One of the things that really has consumed a lot of my time is doing emails. I don't know a lot of sellers, I'm sure they get emails, perhaps they're communicating via all these different methods, and I just put an end to emails. But doing emails in 40 minutes is not a win, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives that sort of placebo effect that you're getting a lot accomplished, but really all you're doing is just doing correspondence. And you got to pull yourself off that and focus on the big things.
And so this is the home run, right? Top right-hand corner, highest impact, highest effort, but this is something that's going to generate us the most money for the bottom line. And a lot of these things are things that I'm really proficient at and are my core competencies. So really here, you should start refusing requests that are draining your time and just not in line with your priorities as a person, but also as a business.
Yeah, that's great. So when we dive in, we dive into this, we really list and weigh what are the important things, what are the tasks that need to get done, what are the tasks that give me the highest return. Once we understand that, then we can begin to automate those repetitive processes by outlining exactly what's important and what's not, right?
Exactly. So I go big on technology, and I don't think that you can have enough technology to not just automate your business, but just manage everything in one place. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to, like this slide says, automate mundane, boring, repetitive tasks, all the low value activities. Find those activities in your life, in your employee's life, and try to find technology and pair it together so that you can automate that and work on higher value activities in your life and in your business.
Right. So let's take a look, Chad. Let's look at some of the programs or software out there that help make our lives easier on the Amazon market. Now, obviously, we have Feedvisor and Skubana, but what other tools maybe do you use that support your day-to-day activities?
So this is a slide that I put together, every single tool that I use in my business. It's one of the most important slides. It's always one of those moments where people take out their phones and take pictures of it. And there's a lot here. So nice. So a few things that I use. One is Boomerang. Boomerang is a great way to remove the cognitive mental processing power and the weight of emails or thinking about things in your brain. Take them off your brain and use Boomerang. Essentially allows you to schedule emails into the future, but also when you send an email, it brings it back into your inbox so you don't have to think about it. So I also use something called LastPass. Again, there's no affiliation to these that I'm mentioning here outside of course Skubana. LastPass is a software that essentially has one password for everything, and we use it across my business, and I'm able to share passwords with employees, and so I don't have to share the actual password. It just shares like a login screen that lets them log in. A few others to mention, these are great friends of both Feedvisor and Skubana, is Feedback Genius, right? So instead of, we have a review strategy, a product review strategy where we have automated emails going out. I can keep going on and on. Returnly is probably another one to mention here. Returnly is a way that I automate the return process. And then lastly, this is not really an automation tool, but when we get to the outsourcing piece, you're going to start seeing that Trello and especially Zoom for recording meetings will be very, very important to training your assistant.
Yeah, absolutely. Trello is a great project management tool. I'm sure you're going to dive into that, like you said, in the outsourcing part. Yep. What I want to discuss a little bit is about automating repricing. Really, what does automating repricing do? Why do you want to do it? For me, it's the most obvious thing to automate. It doesn't require a lot of in-depth thought of why you want to automate it, but just to give you a little bit of insight, obviously you're going to be freeing up time. You're going to be more efficient. And when I say efficient, I'm talking about efficient on your pricing. You're going to be squeezing out the margin levels and very reactive and sometimes even proactive to the market. So if you're manually repricing today, you can reprice a product once every 20 minutes, half an hour if you have a low inventory level. Maybe some items you may not get to for a day or days at a time. When you automate repricing, you're able to get a very reactive repricing system that really takes advantages of those minutes where you can capture sales. And that's really squeezing every penny and taking every penny that's left on the table when it's available. And really, one of the most important parts I like to believe when you automate repricing is gathering valuable data, right? The data is going to guide us, and it's going to pave the path of what we need to do and show us really what's important for us. So let me ask you, Chad, when you reprice a product, what goes through your mind? What factors do you need to consider?
Well, I'll tell you that when I first started very early on, before there was technology, we used to reprice manually.
Right.
So just having the fact that you could have an auto reprice is like a tremendous level up in the world. But of course, you want to understand the market conditions. You want to understand the demand of your product itself. You want to understand where the competition is at, and then price your products accordingly.
Absolutely. I mean, understanding each one of those values you just mentioned is really, really time consuming. And then we're just talking about on a single ASIN. If you put this across 1,000 ASINs, 10,000, some people have 100,000 ASINs, it's really not manageable if you don't have an automated software to help you out. So specifically when it comes to repricing, obviously, we like to work with big data. We work with the algorithms. And this is where the data collection comes in. All that thought process, all that monitoring and strategizing is done through automation. You no longer really have to dive in and understand these to choose a price. The price will be selected based on all these factors. Now, when you work with an automated algorithm, it's going to help you raise those margins. So not only is it going to give you reactive repricing, you're also going to get a little bit of proactive, where it's going to try to pull up the values and really slow down or stop fights to the floor. So when you have an algorithm or a repricer making all these decisions for you in a split second, then that frees up time for you to dive in and identify trends. You identify trends, you dive into data, make decisions, and if you focus on those two factors, eventually it's going to lead you to overall growth. So going back to what you're saying, Chad, again, work smart, don't work hard, right?
Yeah, that was great.
So what is automated pricing? What are we really doing here? Again, just to reiterate, you're getting in values of orders, inventory levels, cost structures, KPIs coming in. A lot of data that you said people are mining manually, sometimes working on Excel sheets, usually served up on somewhat of a silver platter for you. Also, history, competitive landscape history, buy box shares. I mean, if I asked many of the viewers today, what buy box share do you own on this ASIN? You could guess, but you have no idea. But when you do reprice algorithmically or automatically, you begin to gain that data. So the decisions you make aren't based on whims or assumptions. They're based on cold, hard facts. And that's really what you're aiming for when you move into repricing. And of course, competition. You get to monitor the reactions from your competitors. What do your price movements do? How do your competitors react? How often are the competitors with you? If you're doing that manually, I know people have employees diving and combing through all the competition, but when you're working with a repricing system, it gathers that data, all that info in one place, and it's really puts it on, like I said, a silver platter for you to really dive into. So, I think we mentioned this already a couple of times now, Chad, but really, if you want to grow, if you want to make that next leap, the actions you take today not only have to be smart, but they have to be scalable, right? They can't be little single repetitive moves.
Yeah, I think there's a fine distinction between scale yourself or scaling yourself.
Yeah.
So technology allows you to scale, essentially scaling yourself, right? To essentially take whatever the things that you're doing, get them off your plate and let technology do what it was designed to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so the kind of the process that I like to work with my clients, or a lot of my clients like to work with as well, is obviously automate the data collection. Have a system, have a software that brings in the data, so you can monitor the competitive landscape, your orders, your sales, and so on. But where the important part comes in is really identifying the trends. What are you doing? Understanding your inventory, putting them in groupings, and allowing you to work in those groupings systematically. So using data that you're pulling in to identify what stage your ASIN, what stage of the life cycle is it sitting in? Is it in the early stage? It's on the way out? I think that's something pretty important to know at every day or every step along the way. Right, Chad?
Yeah, one of the things that I talk about frequently and I coined is called the Amazon product death cycle. And the window of opportunity for sellers to capture revenue and to essentially have a competitive mode around their products has essentially been really shortened and tightened. And so understanding, is your product in the maturation stage, right? Is it a mature product? Maybe you don't double down on that SKU. Or maybe it's actually in the early days of that product and you want to double down on that SKU because essentially you have a 6-month window before your product's going to get copied these days, at least in the private label world. And even if you're reselling a product, there's a lot more competition. A lot of other brands are coming into those products. So understanding when to go deep and when to double down and when to sort of curb back, put your foot on the brake and know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
That's right. And that's exactly it, is when you understand what stage that product is sitting in the life cycle, it's almost like your action is inherent. It doesn't really require a lot of deep diving of what you need to know, what you need to do, because you know where it's sitting and what the plan is for the near future on that product, right? So yeah. When you split these up into groups based on that understanding the life cycle, and then you use the data that you're pulling in to confirm and support those strategic decisions you're going to be doing over the coming weeks, months, and so on. So once you develop that plan of action, so to speak, by understanding your inventory, I think it's very vital, and maybe you could echo this, but you have to analyze and adjust because things can also change on an instant when you're dealing with e-commerce, right?
Yeah, I mean, what you know in e-commerce expires every 3 months.
Right.
That's actually why I love e-commerce so much, because you're constantly learning new things. You're constantly having to adapt and change because it's still such a nascent early market. Like, I don't even think we've realized or actualized our full potential in the world of online retail just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really critical that once you set your plans, your strategies into action, that you do assessments, and a lot of your time should be put on analyzing, am I hitting the target that I've set out for my products? If not, I'm going to reanalyze and adjust. And you dive into the data. The data that you collect is going to tell you, is going to pave the path in the direction that you need to head, and it's also going to show you where you need to focus your time. You're not going to focus your time on a product that's sitting in liquidation state and hasn't sold in 30 days because it's in liquidation state, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, now we discussed, gathering data, we're automating our process. We could use this data to really automate a lot of mundane tasks or a lot of nagging issues that do pop up on e-commerce, on Amazon, by pulling in that data and grouping it and running, some sort of automated reports or system where you can actually pull up and look at only the key factors you really need to see. Now, once you pull in the data from repricing, the most crucial point is right here. You analyze, strategize, and automate. So going back to what Chad and I are saying, understand the life cycle, dive into it, have a plan for it. And once you have a plan for it, then you can start saying, okay, here's my numbers, here's a report that I need. Now I can automate these numbers for me.
Yeah, and I want to harp on the gather data bullet. So gathering data, I talk to, at least I do about 10 or 11 demos of Skubana a day. And I'll talk to sellers and I really get to understand where they're spending their time, but what are they doing in their business? What software are they using? So I get to know it very intimately. And one of the things I see come up often is the fact that they're spending their day, even employees are spending their day gathering data. They're pulling together reports from Amazon. They're pulling together reports from eBay. Then they get reports from Jet and from Walmart and it's incomplete. And then they need to have a shopping cart report. They're putting all this together and it's taking so much time that they actually spend more time gathering the data than actually analyzing it and using it to their advantage and leveraging it.
It's an excellent point. I mean, that time that you're investing needs to be on the analyzing. The gathering is mundane work, right? And you really should use or leverage your software to lay that information somewhat on a silver platter so you could really focus on what needs to be done.
Yeah, so, and I can't nail home the point more on what we're talking about here is using technology to bulletproof your business and systemize it in a way. And by the way, if you're looking to sell your business, right, you need to have the software in place to make that all happen, to make it bulletproof, to make it plug and play, to make it out of the box, to run itself.
Right, exactly. And I just wanted to touch on some of the types of reports or some of the types of automation you could provide that can help you make these day-to-day actions a little bit more easy or seamless in a sense. So obviously, replenishment, when you're getting the data in, the data speaks for itself most of the time, and obviously you know it more than me, but historical data is really important when it comes to replenishment.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given.
Of course. So once that data is coming in, it's very, leveraging software like yours can help you really stay on top of this type of issue. Now, competitive analysis, once you start pulling in the data, you could very quickly pull reports from software that allows you to understand your competition. Map violators. I'm sure many of you sellers, not just map violators, but hijackers. People are coming to your private label listings, undercutting you and stealing that precious value. So you have the ability to automate anytime people are coming on listings. You could very quickly get reports, send it off to your supplier and have them police it, or you do the policing and they do the judging, so to speak, and hopefully kick them off the listings. Items at risk. So with automation, you can very quickly identify where you're not competitive, as opposed to diving in very deep and seeing where, hey, am I sure? Can I go any lower? You have your floors and ceilings, min and maxes already set, and that can very clearly outline where you're not competitive on items, right? Which I think is a very important task, Chad, when you're looking to move product that hasn't been moving.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just to piggyback on that with replenishment, like the cost is not just of like, hey, I'm out of stock and I can't make money on that SKU. It's the fact that if you're out of stock on a SKU, right, yes, you can't make money, but it also impacts your best-selling rank on Amazon, because Amazon can count on you to provide the level of inventory and service that's required to compete on their marketplace. Yeah,
very true. You do take a ding on your metrics. And what does that ultimately mean? Either less buy box share or less profit margin for sales. So really, really crucial that you stay on top of that type of stuff. Now, obviously, scouting, another crucial thing that really relies on data. I know people that have teams 4, 5, 6 diving in, scouting those products. When you find automation, you can really streamline that process, sort of group items, and then have one maybe or even yourself comb through those items, but only look at the items that really deserve that eye, right? Mm-hmm. And many other types of custom reports, custom type of data that you can build together, again, all based on pulling in that served up data that you can get from automation.
Yeah, and just to mention about, you said there's people that are 5 or 6 or 7 deep going through scouting. When I go to a cocktail party and people say, "Oh, how many employees do you have?" I guess that's a measure of success in the world, or a measure of how large your business is. But in this case, in my opinion, the less employees, the better. Or we have a small family of employees or 2 employees that are running my business because I'm using technology to automate it. So when I say 2, they're like, "Oh, you're small." They have no idea that I'm a high 7-figure business, right, with 2 employees and leveraging technology to make it all happen.
It's all about efficiency. I absolutely agree with you there, Chad. So now we just dove into data a little bit. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Skubana's purchase order?
Yeah. So for me, we designed Skubana around problems I faced early on in scaling the business, and we have a deep focus on automation. Because if you're going to build and scale an e-commerce business, you really have to stop doing things because you think you need to do them or get them done, or because everyone else is doing them, right? Oh, everyone else has all these people figuring out how many to buy of a quantity, so we need that too. And so I use technology like Skubana, and I think we're the only company on the market that does this, to algorithmically detect and do all my forecasting, demand planning, but also create purchase orders awaiting my approval. So we use formulas that you see here, and if you go to the next screen, what you'll see is Skubana becomes a 24/7, 365 employee. So it will create a PO for you, awaiting approval, and we support all these different channels. So I'm on 20 different channels. So it's looking at every single channel, every warehouse that I have, and I've automated my fulfillment with an outsourced warehouse as well, which I think is really important. And essentially, you can see the longer you let a PO sit there, Skubana will add, adjust, and modify that purchase order with a nice little bow on top for you. And I think that doing things like this, which is unheard of, is really, really important, because I have 3,000 listings. I have 950 SKUs. Some of our clients have 60,000 SKUs. And They have somebody crawling the database or mining their data to figure out how many to order based on the lead time, who's the right vendor, what's the right cost to buy it at. It's crazy. So if you can what if you can put a system in place that will instantly score and prioritize picking the right vendor at the right place at the right time and create that purchase order for you, awaiting your approval. To me, that's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you need to really focus on what's going to give you the highest ROI while minimizing your costs. And of course, like we talked about earlier, which was increasing your impact on the business. And so Skubana has built-in FBA workflow. And so not only does it give you like every attribute you need to make a decision of what you should send to FBA, and even if you don't use Skubana, right, think about how you process your FBA orders today. Are you sending just because of velocity, because I don't know, Seller Central or some other software is saying, hey, this is going to run out of stock? Instead, really think about what's going to make the highest impact on your bottom line. Prioritizing profitability is a paradigm shift over prioritizing velocity.
Yeah,
Yep, go ahead, Aaron.
Sorry, I was just going to say that's an excellent point. A lot of time we're focused on that sales, those orders that are coming in. We have to remember what we're doing this for. We're doing this to put money in the bank, and that's the bottom line, right? So we can't neglect the bottom line. Obviously, focus on sales if there's intent to push that product. But if not, let's look at the profitability, because that's what we're here for.
Exactly. Again, it comes down to leveraging technology by your side to automate what's inefficient for human beings to do on their own.
Yeah.
So I'll just jump in here. If you want to make your business more efficient by using these kind of solutions, and you do want a little bit more information about Feedvisor and Skubana, I can see a few questions coming through, about both companies. So just click on your screen if you want more information about Feedvisor, if you would like more information about Skubana, or about both. And then you can make the decision as to whether this would be valuable software to help automate your Amazon business and your e-commerce business. So I'll give you a second to do that, and then you will jump straight back to the experts themselves.
Great. So we covered optimization, understanding ourselves, optimizing ourselves, as you said, Chad. Once we optimize ourselves, then we can automate. We can begin identifying what needs to be automated. So now we have automation. We've optimized ourselves. We still need a little bit of help, right?
Yeah. So outsource. So we talked about, like you said, optimization, automation, outsourcing. We're taking things that you're perhaps not well versed at, or things that you're not very good at, or things that you just hate doing. Having a bucket list, having an effort list, right? These are things that are important for you to analyze about your day. Think about your daily grind. And we take our least core competencies and we let experts globally, because we're in New Jersey, so trying to find talent local is not always that easy, right? So with technology, you're able to open up the world and find more talent to help make your life easier. So if you go to the next slide, the biggest thing I see sellers do, and we talked about this earlier, which is they try to just get more stuff done. They're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna outsource, great, I'm gonna get more stuff done, instead of getting your own stuff done. Take things off your plate first. And I think Tim Ferriss said this, subtraction is just as important as addition.
Yeah.
So if you want to be more productive and happier, right, start taking things off your plate first.
That's a great point.
Chad, sorry to interrupt, but a question just came through about your 2 employees. Are the 2 employees for your Amazon, your e-commerce business, or for Skubana?
No, Skubana has right now about 20 employees, and I wish we were able to outsource, but especially at the early stage of any business, we have a lot of things that are in-house. Our development is in-house in New York City. So this is really our e-commerce business.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
Sure, absolutely. So if we keep going here, where to find assistance? So this is just me saying I use Upwork, which is a brokerage company that will essentially, I can put out a job post and I can get people applying to those job posts. And there's a lot of reasons why I like to use it, but there's reviews. I can also keep them accountable and watch their screen throughout the entire day. And they have a screen recording functionality. So I typically am using Upwork. I just started using a little bit of online jobs, but Upwork is really where I spend most of my dollars for outsourcing.
Right. I've had some experience with Upwork myself in the past, and actually been great success. You need a little digging, a little bit of filtering out the prospects, but there's some real diamonds in there, that's for sure.
Yeah, and even when I first started, right, I started out doing FBA pick and pack, and then I got rid of that. So if you want to grow as fast as you'd like to grow, you have to give away your responsibilities every month, every week, but you have to give that up to scale the way you'd like to scale. So, and I also, when I'm talking to sellers, I'm always thinking, look, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant, right? You're the assistant to yourself. And so when I'm outsourcing, I'm looking for a special type of person. People that align with my values and my mission and have a great work ethic. But I certainly I want to make sure that there's 5 things that are really important, which is making sure that their English is spot on and I can communicate with them, making sure they can communicate with me, making sure their internet is good, but looking at their reviews and looking at their samples that they submit to me from my job post.
Now, just a quick question for you. When you will go on Upwork, Chad, are you posting an ad, or are you inviting people? What's the best way that you actually go through it?
Again, this is something that you can use your virtual assistants to do, but we do a little bit of both. We post and then we invite to the post. One of the ways that we screen our screening process, outside of asking them my IKEA question from earlier, which is in the post, to make sure they read the post, we want to make sure they include something. It could say Rockstar Assistant in the first line. It could say ice cream. but something needs to be there that makes me ensure that they've actually read my post and they're just not mass applying to jobs.
Yeah, it's a great point.
So this is my VA. She's in the Philippines, and she's fantastic. She's my other half in terms of my brain. My wife wouldn't like to hear that, right? But she's like my other brain of my half. And she actually, I even gave her a shout out in my book. But it's important to find this person that's a go-getter that could essentially think the same way you think, that could essentially take on tasks and learn how to do them on the fly, because that's what really differentiates you as an entrepreneur or a CEO, or if you're in the grind running your business, you're just there to get things done. And that's what she's there to help me throughout my entire day.
So what types of, how do you decide what to delegate? What types of tasks and roles you're giving these VRs or VAs, pardon me?
Yeah, so we have, for example, we have roles, right? So my GBA, my general, anything that's consistent that keeps happening on a continual basis is a role-based activity versus a task. Like I hire a special assistant just for bookkeeping. I hire special people just for customer support versus someone that can actually handle and juggle many different balls and opportunities, including this PowerPoint. But the idea is I take the low value stuff, the low value mundane stuff, and try to get those off my plate so I can focus on that high impact stuff that we were talking about earlier.
Yep, that's the idea.
That's my strength, right? Create an impact on my business on the bottom line.
Absolutely.
So if you look here, here's some posts. Here's some job posts that I do. So experienced AdWords master. I'm not an expert in AdWords, or experienced blogger, or FAQ, or part-time bookkeeper. You get the idea. Really, anything is possible.
Yeah, there's really someone willing to do almost anything on Upwork. So there really is an open field for you there.
And so for me, I've been able to build this outsourced army of people who have core competencies that I could never recreate internally. Like I can't be good at everything. I think they say that there's that quote, like you're a master of none if you're a master of all. And so this is a great example of that, where you can take people who are really good at what they do and be a lot more productive in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it seems that maybe two people are running things, but look what's hidden behind the scenes, and look what really drives the company when you really delegate and understand what you need to take care of and what other people can help you out with.
Totally. So here's just a little nugget I want to include here, is that even if you search what other people are posting on Upwork, you can kind of see what's trending, what's vibing on Upwork. So here's an example. I was interested to see what people were doing with Amazon wish lists. And it was a hot button for me. And I put it into Upwork to see what other people are talking about with wish lists. Again, this is just a way to get your brain thinking about these processes.
That's actually excellent insight. Investigating your competition, see what other people that are successful or building doing out there, and really mimic what works, and maybe viewing this type of thing stoke something unique in your mind. So great insight there.
Thank you. So it's okay. We structure our team based on departments, and we use Trello, like you mentioned before, which is a project management tool, to be as extremely efficient as possible. So this is a great way to manage what's happening, but to delegate, because you can assign people cards and watch those cards go from, if you look at the next slide, doing or backlog, to do, doing, and done. And you can watch the process happen without you getting in the weeds to make it happen.
Yeah, and it's a great tool. It really closed down that email communication that we so much dread, seeing an extra 50 emails in the inbox saying, hey, this task is done, this task is moved there. It's really a nice, easy workflow, and allows us to manage sometimes our large collaborations in a very efficient way.
All right, rocking and rolling here. So these are some books that I think have inspired a lot of what we're talking about today. And I'll just point out them. Essentialism is really just about saying no. Learning how to say no is extremely important. Cheaper, Easier, Direct, right? Shout out to my own book, which is really my blueprint around how I've created my business. It's, of course, found on Amazon. No surprise there. Virtual Freedom. I failed at outsourcing for at least for a couple of years until I read this book. And that actually helped me put outsourcing back on the map. And I took one weekend while my wife was at a yoga retreat and recorded my screen. Make sure you use Zoom to record your screen. And you can record your stream because God forbid if anything doesn't work out, that assistant, you have everything recorded already. And then of course, Tim Ferriss for our work week was trying to like got me inspired to outsource.
That's fantastic. I actually had the chance to read your book, Chad. It was really great.
Nice, thank you.
I have the book and I still need to read it.
Hacker. Well, you should have your virtual assistant read it for you.
We've had a few questions come in, so I'll go through those. We won't take up too much more of your time, but they are some pressing questions. So first for you, Chad, when using Skubana, can you segregate reporting and data analytics between multiple brands that are being sold within a single seller account or across multiple channels?
Yes,
that make sense?
Yes, you can do that as well. You can segment them any which way. For me, I really like the 80-20 rule. I do believe that 80% of my profits come from 20% of SKUs. Double down on those SKUs, adjust our ACoS on Amazon, and make more money.
We also, I know Aaron can tell you that we have a similar thing going on over here too.
Cool.
So the next one is for you, Aaron. So you had a few questions about the repricing and price wars. So how can somebody automate their pricing on Amazon without getting into price wars? Because I know that's one of the reasons some people tend to stay away from reprices.
Yeah, great question. I mean, a lot of these price wars are caused either by just natural psychology, right? That we need to be the cheapest to be the best. And also a lot of rule-based repricing can also contribute to that downfall. So obviously, I suggest algorithmic repricing. And the reason why is because what the algorithm is understanding is it understands that Amazon splits the buy box up into shares. And it's not black and white, win or lose. You are entitled to a specific share. And we have that calculation. We understand the share you're entitled to. So based on understanding that share, we could say, okay, we could squeeze another 20 cents and still maintain that share. We could squeeze another dollar, let's say, and still maintain the exact share we own. Something that's impossible to really do with the human eye. And especially when you're dealing with e-commerce, that human factor is out the window. Those feelings that you got to throw it out the door. All we have is numbers to run on. And no one runs through numbers more efficiently or better than a system, right? So ultimately, it makes the big decisions. It's very proactive, meaning it's very quick on how it brings the market. And ultimately, by raising or attempting to raise the value psychologically wise, what is your seller going to do? They don't need to undercut you. They'll say, hey, look, he left me 20 more cents on the table. Maybe I'll just move up, 10 more cents. I'll be the cheapest, but I'm making 10 more cents. When reality is, you might have gotten more buy box share, and now you're up, 25 cents more per sale.
Gabby, we can't hear you.
I was muted there. So last question, just because we're running out of time here. But so how do you, this is for both of you, by the way, how can you let go of important tasks like finding the next product and still make sure you keep growing? So how do you automate those tasks like the scouting, like finding the next opportunity and still make sure your company's growing without wasting too much time?
I'll take this one. Look, I think scouting is a high value activity. So what I've talked about today is really a lower value thing that you can automate with technology. And I think finding opportunities for you to make more money are things that I perhaps are coveted and things that I like to keep internally. So that's my response to that is I think that should be kept internally. And I'd have 2 employees for a reason. I saw one of the questions was what do these people do? Well, one of them is a significant part of it, which is sourcing and identifying opportunities. Because of that shortening Amazon product death cycle that we talked about earlier, the window is changing. Like I used to launch a product on Amazon. I had 5 years of just tremendous growth. And now there's copycats out there and you need to build this defensive position. And that's what we focus our time doing.
Right. I'm just going to echo everything you said there, Chad. You don't neglect it at all. It's a crucial part of the business. Like you said, life cycles run through in a very short time span online, and it is one of those high value exercises. So one thing you can do, again, using tools, scouting software, obviously at Feedvisor we have a great scouting tool, but using tools that can streamline that process for you and make the people that you're working with or yourself when you're diving into that high value opportunity a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, so you can get a lot of that noise, so to speak, out of the way. But absolutely, don't neglect it. Crucial.
Okay, great. Now, if you would like to see Aaron and Chad in person, next slide, please, Aaron. So, Chad is actually hosting a great workshop on the 2nd of November in New York City, where you can actually meet him, ask him even more questions, meet some of the Feedvisor team and also some other companies, but most importantly, meet some very large 7-figure sellers who can really give you lots of advice on strategies, on how to grow your business, automate your business, make more profit. And it's really not only good content, but also good networking. And really it's going to be a great time. So Chad, I hope I sold it well for you, but take it away and tell everyone about the special offer that they can get today.
So I think I actually probably have, we have a couple of tickets left. And so the most important thing for me was I want to build a workshop, a tactical workshop for sellers by sellers. So there's no anonymous sellers walking around. It's people that are high volume or high performing merchants getting together in a room and learning from each other. And so there's not going to be any affiliate links or any people that want to sell you things, because in reality, that's really for them, right? This is really for sellers. So what just to give you an example of a few people that are coming, the speakers that are coming are high figure sellers. They've never spoken before, and they're going to be revealing things about their business that they don't share typically with others. And they're doing it because of the relationship that we've built and the kind of confidentiality and intimacy that we've built in the community. So that's how Accelerate started. We're looking forward to an amazing event, and looking forward to, if you're watching this, if you like what we presented today, you'll imagine one whole day dedicated to changing your business with tremendous amount of gold nuggets.
And if you buy your ticket today, if you can get hold of a ticket today, then you'll get it for half price, basically. So use the code MONEY at accelerate.skubana.com. Do that today, right now, and then you will be able to attend and join us. So, so again, if you would like to contact us, here are our contact details for Skubana and for Feedvisor. It's been great to have you all here today. Thank you for all your questions. Chad, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're super busy, and I'm really pleased you didn't outsource this specific webinar. It's obviously a high value activity. And Aaron, thank you also for joining us, even though you're in the same office as me.
Well,
and we hope to see you next time on the next webinar. So take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.